Welcome, everybody. So we are live. Theoretically, I haven't actually checked. We probably are. It says live in the top left-hand corner, so I think we are. Thanks for joining us. We thought we'd have a little chat about 4th edition leaks and rumours. They're not really leaks and rumours, are they? Because they're what's been published. We're going to run through what's been published on the Mantic blog. This week, I've brought with me a bevy of incredible experts. The level of high-level player right now that's here to talk about 4th edition is off the charts. So I've got Cohen the Barbarian, AK Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Hello. And I've got the one and only Dinan Bothor himself, Ian Sturgis. Hi, Ian. How you doing?
Right, Steve. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for watching. Those who are watching, we have a few people in the chat. So hi to Matt Hobday and Heather. We've got Ruthless Ebui. We've got Marco, and we've got the Naughty Goblin, which I thought was Ian's nickname from school. But there we go. So hi, lads and ladies. Thank you so much. Hi, Grant. Nice to see you. Hi to Grant Alexander. There we go. There's Jan in the background. Say hi to Jan. She can't hear us, but she is there. The Naughty Goblin is my lovely friend Fraser, and that's Barry, who I played a game of Kings of War with yesterday, which I won. So that just goes to show. There you go. Right.
That's the caliber you are, Steve.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it, really? Paige Neer is with us. So hi, everyone, and hi to Elliot Barrett, master of Mantic Companion. So lots of people coming to join us. Thank you so much to listen to our wonderful ramblings. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to run through, if I just share my screen, we are going to go through this wonderful site, which was constructed by someone, I don't know, someone excellent, I'm sure, within the Mantic team that definitely wasn't Elliot Barrett. So we're going to run through all the rumors that have been published so far. So if you haven't seen this site, you should definitely check it out at manticgames.com/kings-of-4-edition. So it rolls off the tongue. So there's lots of stuff to look at here. There's some videos about the world of Panathor. We won't go into those because I think they just kind of fluff. The original world of Panathor was the war is coming. There was this rumors about the new faction, which we haven't had any more on since I did the video last week. We have some community videos. We have a hilarious skit featuring some outstanding acting by Matt Gilbert and Ronnie Renton and Alessio Galvatore. And then we have 4 blogs that we're going to run through today. So we have one on general changes, movement phase, range phase, and combat phase. Anything you guys want to kind of add before we crack into the first of the blogs?
Not really. I'm just looking forward to it. I've been stoked for this for a while. So
yeah, me too.
As in the game change, not the podcast.
Literally a game change. Yeah. And here's Gordon from New Zealand. So good morning to you from New Zealand. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's crack into general changes. So I think what the plan is I'll kind of go down each bit and then we'll kind of discuss each bit as we go. So this was published on Monday, with Alessio Calvatore kind of giving a general kind of view of the game. So we've got a nice screenshot of some Abyss versus some Trident Realm. I was hoping they'd kind of put some sneaky new army shots in, but they didn't. Anyway, so blah, 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 blah. He wanted to understand what was good, what was bad. And his challenge was to refine and modernize the rules, introduce new tactical depth, and improve clarity without losing the essence of what makes Kings of War so beloved. He wanted to make the game more approachable for new players because the 3rd edition rules have become incredibly thorough, great for veterans, but intimidating for newcomers. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that's how the game was at the end of 3rd?
I wouldn't go that far, but I would say there was a few of the auras say that only affected certain things with certain keywords, and there was a few rules that were basically the same rule, but they were slightly different with a different name. I think it was getting a little bit cluttered.
Yeah, I think we had some feedback from our local club introducing new players, and we introduced the game as being smooth and flowing well and simple to learn, difficult to master. And but then we'd all been through 2nd, 3rd, 3.5, so we didn't notice it as much as somebody coming in and just looking at it and saying, well, it's a bit confusing to where to find the rules in the rule book was the main complaint.
And the FAQs as well and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of answers on Facebook and stuff like that. It got a little bit bloated, I think, to be honest with you. And I don't know. It was time for the change, that's for sure. It's time for something new. I've loved this edition, but it's
yeah. I think it's time for new. I think people are getting ready. So Paige has asked, have we read through the release? Have you guys read through the release content already, or are these first reactions? So I've read it. Have you guys been reading it through the week?
I've read it, yeah.
I've had a brief read, but I can't say I've studied it in detail.
So 2/3 of us have read them before.
I have read it, just not as much as you guys.
Unfortunately, Ian is the best player of the three of us, so we've got a running shout at this now. All right, so I didn't realize I wasn't sharing the screen because, of course, the helpful website opens a new link every time, and we only share one tab at a time. Anyway, right, so this was his thing. So he split it into core rules and advanced rules so people can learn the basics before diving into extended mechanics, which I think is fine as long as people don't regard advanced rules as optional, right? So we don't get this confusion between what's optional and what's core. So I think that should be okay. It's a good way to kind of get into the game. I suppose you kind of think about it. You've got champions and you've got ambush and you've got Kings of War. I think we're kind of sweeping that off the table. And what we have is a core rule and then kind of advanced rules for tournament players, maybe.
Yeah, I think you'll probably go from champions as your gateway, and then the easy rules or the core rules will be just slightly more advanced than the champion stuff to lead you gently into then starting picking up. There's a lot of rule systems that do it that way.
Yeah, I think it's fine to have lots of sets of a sort of advancedness in rules, because casual play is a different thing entirely, isn't it, to tournament play? Definitely. And I think there's a lot of people who are just happy to play casual play, and I think because of that. But the problem is it always comes back to, even no matter what you do, you still end up with the same questions, usually around movement in these sort of games, that still end up with complexity no matter what you do, right?
Exactly right. Well, hold that thought, I would say. So he's this kind of paragraph's all about how to he's tried to improve the wording. And I think, that's probably been something that Kings of War has needed for a while, just a little bit of tidying up and consistency in wording, which comes from having a committee, right? So lots of people writing lots of different words. So simplicity in wording, I don't think we can all agree, is probably, as long as it's clear, a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It takes an Italian to teach us English, right?
yeah, that's exactly right. So an Italian has come to teach us all how to write English. Good job. So streamlining and standardization. So we've got with the help of chosen veteran players, changes to improve consistency. So I think this has been a long time coming, is that troops and regiments are the same across infantry, large infantry, and cavalry. So we know that was a historical hang-up, right? So it was because the boxes said regiment and horde. So ogres are now troops and regiments, and hordes in the same way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, everyone.
No, I think it's just a change of words, really. I don't think it means anything on the tabletop.
Yeah, it's just consistent. Makes it simpler, isn't it?
What it will mean is ogre. Sorry, things like unit strength make more sense.
Legion is a horde.
Legion is a horde, exactly right, Bob. Yeah, and unit strength does make a difference, but unit strength, we'll come on to that later, has been standardized. So the next thing is the big change that made people throw their toys out of the pram was all heroes are now either 40 or 50 mil bases. My understanding of this is that infantry heroes are 40, cavalry heroes are 50. This standardization increases their battlefield presence and makes them feel like proper units. Larger hero titans remain on their bigger bases, of course. And they have clarified, we've seen clarification elsewhere, that the individual rule is still a thing, right? So there still will be individual. One of the big worries is that if everyone's an ogre hero and you've got a speed 10 flyer, it jumps over the back and then you're screwed, right? But they're saying the individual rule is still there. So thoughts on 40 millimeter heroes as a standard?
There's a lot of corners.
I think it adds a lot in terms of like the artistry and the dioramas and stuff like that you can do with it. So I think that side's good. I think they feel a little bit, even gaming wise, they feel a little bit too. I know it sounds ridiculous, but a 20 mil base feels a little bit too small to kind of do anything accurately with. And because they've got the individual rules, doesn't mean they're the individual rules as you know them, Steve. So that doesn't necessarily mean they can turn and charge in any direction. And
you're right. Yeah,
that's an important clarification. It just means they have a set of rules that make them an individual, and not how you know an individual.
That might be true. That might be true. We've got a couple of things from the people in the chat. This is Luke Fraser, who is US Master, former US Master. Great change. And I don't think, just as you said, Ian, so I don't think everything is still an individual. What they've said is the individual rule still exists. Yielding still exists as a character trait. And diorama-wise, it's fine. I think you're right, Ian, in terms of precision of play. Sometimes it's very difficult, particularly if it's a fast individual, to know where they start, how many pivots there is, all that kind of stuff with a tiny 20 mil base. And with the scope creep we've seen in miniatures, I struggle to fit most of my heroes on a 20 mil base, if I'm honest with you. What do you think, Bob, in terms of hobby and...
In terms of hobby, it's a massive leap forward, because there's just so much you can do with a larger base, even with a miniature that's originally designed to fit on a 20 mil base. I mean, it doesn't limit you to just having one model on there as well. You could make small dioramas. You could have like your hero with a couple of retainers. I think it's great for hobby.
If it's a wizard, you could have him on a palanquin, right? A couple of guys in the chair or something, So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the only people I saw complaining were people that we're going to have to rebase 100 heroes, and it's like, no, you just need one converter base or like 3, because how many individuals do you have in an army? I mean, if you're Mike Smith, you have like 15, or is it which of the Smiths was it? One of the Smiths had like all the wizards. But you just get some converter bases, and those are the ones you use, right? So I don't think it's that much.
I've seen already somebody's brought MDF bases out with 20 mil squares, 25 mil squares, and 20 and 30 mil rounds on them as an MDF Sabo base for your characters. So you could, buy a couple of those, base them up to match your army, like you said, Steve, and away you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I see no downside to this already at all. I really don't. It's a great change.
Good. Me too. Okay, so single nerve value, another massive change to the rules here. So with changes to shooting, but we'll discuss later, the double nerve value was no longer necessary. A single nerve value streamlines gameplay without sacrificing tactical depth, which is a big statement, I think. So, one of the things is that wavering is such a huge part of Kings of War 3rd edition. And what they've essentially said, and we'll hark back to this when we come to shooting, wavering only exists for shooting now. And everything else is either you're dead or you're not. Maybe I've got that wrong. That's how I understand it. Is that how you guys understand it?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Any thoughts about that? I think this is a big change. I've got to be honest, a really big change.
I mean, I think what Alessio's tried to do here is make it more, I won't say realistic, but make it more in line with historical war games, in that shooting doesn't necessarily kill things off. It slows them down and it disorders them, and it can cause them to have second thoughts about going into combat. But it's combat that actually does the damage in the end. But because it's a war game, you still have to have some mechanism where your shooting can kill something. It just makes it a lot harder.
I'm on the fence. So the positives for this for me are, I'm being honest, I'm teaching my lad at the minute, and he's like 9. And the 2 waiver values are the waiver and the nerves quite confusing for him. He's okay at maths, but the fact you've got 2 values he has to remember seems confusing. So it would definitely be easier to teach younger players and newer players with only 1 value. That's a positive. I've always felt it was counterintuitive in combat that when somebody charged you and they did damage to you, if you wavered, you didn't do anything back. Because even realistically, if somebody charges you, you would do some damage to them, right? So I like it in that respect. The shooting change I'm fine with. overall, it does take something tactical away from the game, and it does take the 6-6 roll away, which, if you can have a 1-1, I quite like the 6-6.
Yeah, there was so 6-6 is. Well, let's come on to that. Let's hold that thought, because that comes later. So let's just quickly finish off these bits here. So height and unit strength have been taken off. This was an interesting one, which has had a bit of debate. So what they've said is they've been standardized across all units, and only exceptions would be on a unit. So the way I think about this is it's like the way we think about terrain, right? So terrain, you have a standard set of terrain. Let's say you're in a tournament or in a game. At the beginning of the game, you said, right, this is height 3, your hills are height this, your walls are height 2, and you know. So what I think they're saying is unit strength-wise and height-wise, we know all infantry is the same, all monsters are the same, all cavalry are the same. There's no need to have it on the unit. Only exceptions for things like some swarms. In the name of simplification. I mean, lookup tables are bad, but I feel a standardized value might not be so bad, right?
Well, I mean, I keep getting caught out by the changes between the clash books, because in some of them, missile units were unit strength 3 as a regiment, and in others they were unit strength 2. And they did change ever so slightly, and that did catch me out, and still continues to catch me out at tournaments. And I think just having everything the same across the board, because when you think about it, if you've got 20 guys armed with bows and 20 guys armed with boards and swords, it's the same unit strength. So why would a shooting unit be slightly less unit strength than your common infantry? I think it's a good idea to speed things up.
Yeah, I think maybe that. Sorry, I
like it, and I don't. It makes trash infantry much more powerful than they were previously, and I already feel that trash infantry was probably the better infantry of the infantry anyway. So it'd be interesting to see what they've done with the points values with that. I don't mind if they put all the units the same. I'd quite like tournaments to make different height hills and different height obstacles on each table, so that there's actually some tactical variability there, without being confusing and have to remember everybody else's army. It would just be on the table in front of you. Yeah. Because I quite like variable heights, so that, a chariot doesn't always see over a hill or whatever. It should see over that hill, but not over that big hill. I quite like different heights of hills.
That's interesting. So we haven't seen anything about how terrain is treated. And I think I did see a comment from someone in one of the posts that has been testing, saying there aren't big changes to terrain heights. I think what's been seen, they had unit strength was tied to points value of units, right? So if you had a really cheap unit, its unit strength was reduced to reflect that. And I think the way they're trying to manage that is through the unit selection criteria, which has nothing in. I don't think there's anything in Alessio's blogs about this, but this is a good point, is that it's not necessarily about, and hi to Bonehead Podcast, if you've been checking out his blogs, he's a great channel talking about Kings of War at the minute. All things Blood Bowl, but you can talk about Kings of War a lot, mate. Just saying, you need to change the name of your channel there. It's the battalion structure of unit construction may address that. So we have like core units and then I can't remember what they're called, supplementary units. So I think a lot of the better quality shooting units might not be core units. What we don't want to see is people being able to spam loads and loads and loads and loads of really poor quality units. Like who was it that used to run all the goblins? Adam Padley, right? Yeah. He won Masters with it. So a return to that kind of list, I think, would be a downgrade. So hopefully, pointing and unit strength isn't going to encourage that kind of play, right?
Bonehead just made a comment there about shooting units would have to be reduced in points cost, but not necessarily so. They might be increased in attacks. Like people always see this stuff in a vacuum and they'll say like, oh, I don't like the idea, I can't shoot stuff off. But you probably, if they increased in attack slightly, you probably nearly can, and then you'll just touch it with something and it will die. So you'll still have you could still have that goblin list, because goblins don't do any damage, but it turns out if you've done lots of shots into something, whatever regiment or horde you charge it with does the one damage you need to then break it. So it's in a vacuum, things are one way, but not necessarily, because we don't know the whole rule list. And that's the thing with speculation, right? You're speculating on the bit you know and not the bits you don't know. And that's the dangerous thing, right?
Exactly right. And on which notes? Let's move on. So keywords have gone. Good. Keywords were confusing and lots of them were never used. Traits are apparently clearer and more meaningful. That's good. I'm assuming as long as they're good. So interesting here that it says traits interact with special rules, command orders, and auras. So there's three things to be aware of there. Is that there are command orders. I'm assuming the word they've used is not, command orders a la champions, auras and special rules. Okay, but are applied more thoughtfully. Many units do not have traits as we only add them when they are needed.
Bath or bath? Like,
right.
To me,
okay, so there's a defined center point of facing points for each unit. That's just, to be honest, I don't want to spend any time on that because it doesn't mean anything at this point. It's just to note. And then rules terminology, they've just tidied up some rules terminology. They've changed some of the names. They've helpfully put in the Abyssal Berserkers, the most taken unit at Clash 2025. And they've put in that one to indicate they've reduced the speed. Now, I don't know if that means there's a general speed reduction or whether just Abyssal Berserkers have had their speed reduced because, come on, lads, maybe they need calming down. But they've got some interesting rules in there. So crushing strength is regeneration. Wild charge all still there. So they've reduced their speed, but given them a wild charge of 1. So they're still a very respectable charging distance. They've got a trait of middle circle and a rule called retaliate, whatever that might mean.
I mean, they lost nimble, but we're going to come on to that in a minute, right?
Yeah, so that is definitely mentioned. There's not been a full explanation of that. But
there's been a lot of speculation about that.
Well, yeah. Well, as Phase Star says, we are all here for egregious speculation. That's literally what we're doing. This is 100% an egregious speculation live stream. So Luke says it's annoying to mark 4 times as many center points. Well, it depends how they're used. I'm not quite sure what your rear center point is going to be used for. I can't imagine. Yeah. I imagine Retaliate is the new Fury, but then there's no wavering. So there's no wavering. Why would doesn't make sense?
Maybe it's the new Vengeance.
Ooh, maybe they're getting the dwarf rule of crush 1 on the Retaliate. Okay. So I tell you what I do like this thing. They have a trait of middle circle. Not only is this used within the army, it's thematic as it's linked to the circle of the abyss they are from. I really like that. That adds a kind of a more of a feeling to the army of actually being from the abyss. If these are the middle circle abyss and you've got the lower circle abyss and those kind of bits, I think that's a nice touch because keywords used to be just something like expendable, and you can be expendable in any army, but middle circle indicates that these are middle ranking abyssals, which kind of gives a bit more character to the army.
Certainly does.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so special rules on heroes. So, for example, so this isn't interesting. Units with a new feint special rule can now withdraw from combat without having to roll a nerve test and then also change facing. You'll see this on things like light cavalry archer units. So this has been, it's going to be later on. Let's talk about it now because it's apropos to talk about it now. The withdraw rule means that if you want to pull out of a combat, you will roll a nerve test and your unit will be routed if you fail it. All right? Feint allows you to do that. So these kind of nimble cavalry units will be able to do that without fear, making them quite powerful, really. If you think about how chaff it can be used to pull back, change. Got a troop.
I wonder if your ASB works on that, Steve.
Say again?
I wonder if your ASB works on that nerve check.
Do
you get inspiring or not?
And who rolls the nerve check? Because normally you would roll a nerve check on your opponent. You're rolling a nerve check on your own unit. That's quite different. Are we asking the opponent to roll on it?
If they just double sixed you last turn, they can roll on theirs.
Yeah.
But
apparently, I didn't enunciate the exclamation point in withdraw and change facing. Guys,
it's interesting, right? Straight away there, the thing that interests me with that, light cavalry used to be a big thing in the old game from Voldemort Company, and fleeing and kind of flight, if you like, and then kind of Mongol tactics. It'll be interesting to see how that works in this game because I do feel fast cav generally needs something. It's not always true, but it does need something. I think it's quite heavily pointed for what it is generally, fast cav. I mean, the halfling ones are good, but generally you don't see them. And they just feel like slightly lighter cav that do the same thing as cav worse. Whereas if it would be like interesting to see what they have with this extra rule, right? I mean, that's more tactical depth by miles, that is. However, you don't want to see armies of them. If you've ever played, Bob, you played the old game for many years. You don't want to see armies and armies of things just retreating all over the place and resetting and shooting you and retreating and resetting and shooting you, because that's not fun, is it?
Not at all. But it used to happen all the time.
Yeah.
Because it was a valid tournament-winning tactic.
Exactly. Okay, so blah, 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 deeply collaborative. We gathered feedback through blah-de-blah-de-blah. The Gale was to go, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. Cool. Right, so let's move on to the next blog. How do I get out of this screen? Stop sharing. Okay, so let us find the next one. So next is the movement phase. Let's have a little look-see. Work. Thank you.
I love the fact that there's a separate argument going on between people in the comments section at the side, discussing things that we're.
I'm trying to keep track of it. If I missed something, because I want to bring people who are chatting in a little bit more. Apart from somebody telling me off for apparently being mean about people in the community, which I don't know why I did, but if I did, I'm so sorry. I would never want to do that.
I thought we were all about caring the community.
Well, we've got multiple US Masters in the chat. So Adam Ballard says, is change facing an order now? I mean, you're US Master. You should be telling us how to play the game, Adam, really.
Dude.
Clearly, yes, it is. Fast cav is rubbish, according to Ruthless. What is the target nerve number to roll for the withdraw? I don't think your opponent rolls it. If you're running against the only one's never seen. Again, wild speculation, Paige. I have no idea. Ian W, different Ian, says, I think fast cam will be most useful now since you can't spam fireball to wipe out units in the last turn to get them off objectives. Or can you? What if being wavered affects your unit strength? I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. I'm going to throw that out there and then not respond to any questions about it whatsoever. Ian says, withdraw is not something I'll ever use, not with my dice rolling. Well,
change the record, Skamans.
What about Skamans? What about if you've thrown a rubbish chaff unit into a giant killer horde and you've got two massive hammers behind it and you want that unit to die? So you withdraw with your damaged unit, it immediately dies, and now you can smash in your two hammers. Surely that's, no. I don't know.
Ian will pass no matter what with in that situation, because that's just how perverse his dice are.
I've just been thinking about this. Completely pointless thing, but something relevant to one of the lads said there. Like, so when this edition started, I feel for a lot of armies, and elves were very dominant amongst others. I feel for a lot it was a lot of shooting, and then you kind of just charge something in to take something off. And as the edition's gone on, I feel for a lot of armies, it's becoming a lot of combat. You have a little shooting at the back, so if something survives the combat, you can ping it off with a shooting. And it's kind of weird because this edition, the way it's written so far, seems to be going back to the shoot it a bit and then charge it to take it off. So it's almost like it's going back to the start of third in terms of tactics. That's how it reads to me anyway.
But you can still shoot things to kill them as long as they're devastated, right?
Yeah,
so you can have
a lot more effort,
inefficient use of resource, Steve.
But if you've got like multiple efficient shooting units, like the armies you used to run, Ian, you can soften up the targets, you smash in combat, all your stuff dies, their stuff's all really wounded, and then you've got your efficient shooting units to finish them off with the devastating shooting.
So you're actually saying it's both. So it's both the start and the end of the edition at the same time, because you can use your shooting units either way. You could either use them as plinkers to plink up and then charge off, or if you were mainly melee, hopefully you'd done most of the damage with melee, enough to just put the last 3 or 4 damage on to take it off. Is that what you're saying? If you had a bad roll?
Yeah. So you just need to just roll good. That sounds dangerous like tactic. I know, Heather. It's not me. Okay, so let's plunge into movement. And please do, if you guys, because I'm between two screens here, because I'm scrolling one and then skipping up those. If you see a good comment, please do shout out and let me know, and we can bring it on screen and have a chat about it. Okay. Goodbye to you, Bonehead. Thanks for joining us. There you go. So Paige says, don't forget with the standstill +1 bonus, which we're coming on to. We haven't got to shooting yet. We might be able to put out more shooting damage. That's good to think about. But they may well have adjusted everyone's shooting values negatively in order to get that standstill bonus, so we don't have like giant balances of charges. So movement. So we agree it's the heartbeat. I mean, movement is really the core of Kings of War when it comes down to it. It's a game about positioning. You wanted to freshen up the movement phase. So this is the key bit, which they've not elaborated on, and maybe we can speculate a little bit here, but we've introduced additional pivots on certain movement orders, allowing units to be more agile and responsive. This increases fluidity and opens up new tactical possibilities. It's a subtle change, but I don't think it's very subtle. I think it's like an absolute hammer. But what do you guys think about additional pivots on certain movement types?
Crucial to level up infantry to a better level. So as we currently play, I feel speed, especially as a lot of speed also has nimble, just absolutely dominated small stuff. Whereas if to be able to withdraw and back out of a combat, or to be able to sort of go forward and twist like you do now with Dwarves and Abyssal Dwarves with the marching order. What's that one called?
Ordered March.
Ordered March, yeah.
I think really does, and having played a bit of Abyssal Dwarves this edition, I really do think makes infantry just better. Like, you have to play it in straight lines at speed 5, speed 4. It's horrendous. And even, I mean, now obviously you're not going to in the future, but now if you waver, or even if you want to withdraw, so they're now calling it, to have to go in a straight line just prevents most charges. I did see there's no extra pivot on the charge. So to be able to withdraw a unit and do as they've done, like if, say, D was in B in that diagram and it just come back at an angle, just allows you to put another unit into that combat, which I think is infinitely better than where you currently are. I think infantry are frankly boned in a game where infantry should be dominant in this edition. And I think just that little move change will mean a lot. Hopefully ordered march for everyone, and hopefully ordered withdraw for everyone. If they don't do anything else, just those two would work for me.
Yeah. There's got a few comments. Go on, Bob. You talk while I bring up
the ordered march on the dwarfs plus the formation, the Eric's mallets. I mean, the number of free dwarf armies that suddenly had the 3 units of shield breakers in there, purely and simply. I know they still only move 8, but 8 inches a turn and pivot twice suddenly made those units really worthwhile, especially with the scout. You know, the number of people that were complaining that it was an unfair advantage, which is not something that the Free Dwarfs have ever had. Hopefully they'll sort that out in this edition as well, please.
So Luke says, more fluid is a huge red flag for him. I'd be pretty sad if nimble becomes the default. And I think it's important to think about this in terms of only if nimble stays the same rule set as it is now. Making movement more fluid doesn't mean that everyone gets nimble charges, right? So we've not got corkscrews everywhere, because they specifically say later in these blogs they don't like the idea of all these corkscrew charges going everywhere. So I don't think necessarily more nimble for everyone. You know, if you've played Champions, the normal movement has 2 turns on it, but doesn't for a charge. And I think maybe where we're going, it's more about making movement more positional and charging more decisive.
It's virtually impossible now to keep an infantry line a line unless you're a cheat, right? So, or unless you go dead straight, which is like not reactive to anything. And I feel we all got into wargaming to smash dollies in the middle of the table. And for most of us, that was infantry, or a large extent infantry. And I think anything that makes the finagling easier with infantry, the little movements, the counter charge setups is great. But I agree, I don't want nimble charges for everyone, because that just gets absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'd get rid of it full stop if I could, if I was Draw Edition. But I certainly think to be able to back up like ordered withdraw and ordered march are great. I really do think they're things that kind of would benefit the game. I think anything much past that would be maybe a bit too much.
So that's enough wild speculation on one line of text. So new orders withdraw and reform. So combat is now sticky. Units remain fully engaged unless they actively try to disengage. If they do so, they use the new withdraw order, which requires passing a nerve test, fail, and the unit is routed. So for hordes, this isn't going to be too much of a worry, right? For little chaff units, might be a good way to clear them out. Pass, they can move away, but crucially, they cannot charge another unit that turn, which adds a layer of risk and decision making. The big reward is to open up the enemy for a new charge by your fresh troops. And then in tandem with that, the reform order allows to reposition. So this is what they talked about wrap around. So those of us that were Clash 25 in the UK, there was talking about wrapping around combat. So this is like when we used to have declare a new charge, right? But instead of that, it's just a reposition. So counter charge is dead. Sorry to the counter charge hosts which are watching. Hi, Counter Charge Podcast. You need to change your name, guys. You need to be called suggestions for the new Counter Charge Podcast name in the chat, please. But you can wrap around into another facing based on where you're... Yeah. But you need to be able to point your leader point into the flank. So, for example, in this diagram, A cannot wrap around because its leader point cannot hit the flank. It has to stay in the front. Thoughts? Wise chat colleagues?
Not really much different to now with smart charging, honestly. But just, right, not really intuitive. But we don't really know what the center, we don't really know what the mid lines mean everywhere, right? You know, these, instead of the arcs, we got these center lines everywhere. We're assuming we know what they mean. But it just looks intuitive to me. Doesn't it to you, Bob?
It does. I mean, going, like you say, going back to the diagram we had before where everything's measured from the center point, there's no leader point now. But those units on the diagrams there, those units appear to me to have the leader point marked out.
Yeah.
So that's just a bit confusing on this example. But yeah, I mean, if you've got an overhang like that, then lapping round makes more sense. It's just, like you say, very intuitive, very easy to follow, and quite realistic, to be honest, because you wouldn't have like a load of blokes standing idly by while the mates were on the end with the unit were fighting.
Yeah.
Although in that example, with the other blue unit sitting down there, they might think twice about it.
Well, guaranteed, Bob. If this was your combat, Bob, you know you would double one that unit immediately and get rear charged by Unit D. There's no doubt that would happen.
Oh yeah, that's almost a definite. That's why what I'd probably do is withdraw both those units and pivot them sideways.
Just if the leader point needed to touch on a regular charge, then how are those two horses? So I don't think the leader point needs to touch on a regular charge. I think the leader point needs to touch on specifically on the reform. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Just need to touch on. There's somewhere I've read somewhere anyway, and so it's not just speculation. I've read it somewhere that as long as an inch of the unit touches, that it's a legal charge. So you can't clip anymore, but you only need an inch of a unit. So that definitely wouldn't get a horde into combat, and it could be that. I mean, if two units charge like that, otherwise, if the leader point had to touch, then you'd only get one charge against most units.
Yeah. So that's a nice segue onto the next bit, which says there's a couple of things here. So I want to deal with the second one first, which is only 2 units can multi-charge per facing, which is kind of similar to what you just talked about. I had also heard about that inch. You need to have an inch on. I haven't read it anywhere, so I think maybe people are just being.
Is it from Champions? Is that where we've got it from, Champions?
Oh, it might be. It might be. But
no, according to Rob Berman, officially, Champions took more of its inspiration from the playtesting for 4th edition than the other way around.
There you go. A quick question from Matt Croger here. Where would Bob prefer to be touched by a horde of enemies? Please don't answer that. I just thought I'd put it on.
And Ian W's already broken the system. Does 1 inch mean that only one charge is against 50 mil bases? Obviously, with an inch being 25.4 millimeters. so technically you can't double. I mean, definitely couldn't. If that was the case, you definitely couldn't double charge a 40 mil, right?
So it's definitely champions. We don't know if that's made it into, but
we don't. And the individual rule means you might only be able to be charged by 1 unit or maybe 2. So they're on 40 and 50 mil basis. Who knows?
So I can't see one.
Does a character count as a unit?
Just speculation. Anyway, moving on. So 2 multi-charges per facing. But the first one I think it's probably a good change. Charges no longer have to follow the shortest route. It's much easier to execute, less prone to controversy. So this is about, you put your unit here, there's a wood here. I could hit you, but I've got to take the shortest route, so you're hindered. Get bent. That's not the case anymore. If you can charge unhindered, you will charge unhindered.
One complication with this. You're 14 inches away from a unit, want to charge it, you move 16 inches, and then you get into, have you moved more than 16 inches to go around the wood?
That doesn't matter because you measure. I think they say you measure your charge range from anywhere on the base. You can make a charge as long as you like, as long as you can make the charge. Right? Doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. So is the charge once you say you're 14 inches away? Is the charge still limited to 16 inches, or if you want to go around the wood, can you go 20?
I don't know.
The 2 closest points were 14 inches away, but if you want to go around the wood, right? You understand what I'm saying? Because
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
That adds loads of points of controversy and people marking bases and all sorts of things if that's the case.
Okay, Justin says Kyle has confirmed you only measure before the charge, and you can move infinity inches to connect.
Wow,
good. That's good then, because that's simple.
Simple, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Only limited by number of pivots. I think that's a good change. Less kind of, wanker play. Kind of like, I position myself just here, so you have to go over the wall, even though it's clearly you could. I think it's all right. Blah, 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 blah. Movement in Kings of War 4th edition is more engaging than ever. Okay, so no more 1 inch standards. So the 1 inch rule has finally died. Units can even end up in contact with enemy units as long as it's clear to both players they're not engaged unless they've charged, which helps keep the game moving, make battlefield positioning more intuitive. Are we all okay with this? Do we feel this is a good thing? We're okay with it?
Hang on, I've got to read that. You say that again. Units can even end up in contact with enemy units.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's the best way to make sure that things are clear? For somebody with an appalling memory like me, if my opponent says, I've got 8 units in contact, this one's engaged, these aren't, they're going to get pissed off with me saying, did we say that was engaged or not? That's the only thing I can see with that, unless you've got some sort of counter, and then you end up with a cluttered battlefield.
We can get rid of the wavering counters and make them disengage counters instead.
Yeah,
right?
I suppose so. Yeah.
Counters. Is this one in combat, or is that one in combat? This one, I think this is a good change where there's been occasions where they're like, I'm going to move here with this character. Like, you can't do that because then you'll be within 1 inch of both of my units, right? And that kind of play just doesn't feel fluid and good.
Doesn't feel intuitive, but now you're going to get people arguing over whether you went through their unit or not.
Yeah, apparently Luke says no one has ever been confused about engagement. Eliminating the 1 inch rule is a godsend. You've obviously never played me.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Bob's sometimes confused about which units are on the battlefield and not on the battlefield. So,
look, I think overall
that's never going away, is it?
No.
Never going away.
Overall, that's a positive, right? But we just don't.
It's
going to create different arguments, but hopefully less.
So, without the 1 inch rule, flyers can fit in a lot of tighter spaces. This is a fair point, right? So if you've got a nice 50 mil flyer that's very fast, that's going to be, or I don't even know how Surge operates in version 4. Wild speculation. So little surgeable 50mm air elementals, which are already quite horrible to face, being able to jump over you and turn. I would worry about that if there was no kind of provision for it. But maybe they're reduction in speed, reduction in interaction. I don't know.
Are we sure that flyers are still in version 4?
Yeah, there's no more
Has
flying.
anybody seen any evidence about that? Just asking.
Wild speculation. I need to get a wild speculation banner. How do I do that?
It does mean, though. It means corkscrew charges are a lot harder for a lot of units, because you can, instead of having to stop an inch away, where something like cavalry can easily turn square and even, slightly off square and get to where they want to go, you can get right in somebody's face without charging them. And so because of that, at best they can turn square, at absolute best. And I think that saves arguments, because I think at the moment there's a lot, are you an inch away, you're not an inch away, are you just blocking that angle onto that unit or not when you're an inch away? So I think overall it's probably positive.
I think it's a generally positive change, to be honest. Cool. I mean, this goes without saying. Probably feels right. Fairly sure.
Oh, come on! Every rule will get abused by wargamers. It's in our nature, isn't it? As soon as a new set of rules comes out, you're thumbing through it desperately, trying to find something to exploit. Or is that just me?
Flyers, don't worry. Flyers will be in an expansion book later. You can buy flyers, and only if you've got the expansion book can you play in a visual tournament. That's how it's going.
Excellent.
All right. So, in conclusion, more fluid and give you 2 potentially complementary options. Are you going for extra width on the table with the extra pivots increasing your chance of flanking the enemy, or are you going for depth as the new withdraw and reform orders make it easier to bring your second line of units to bear? All right. Well, that's fine. So on to the ranged phase. So where is my ranged? Where have you gone? Here we are. Right. Operating this is incredibly complex. Here we go. The ranged phase. So, I mean, there's been a lot of debate about, is Alessio correct in this initial paragraph?
From ra to sh.
One of the no, not that one. The one above it. One of the most consistent pieces of feedback I received during development was that shooting felt too powerful. Q, since I'm not allowed to mention individual members of the community, Q, the UK #1, screaming from London, "No, it's not! It's not too powerful!" In a game that's fundamentally about blocks of troops clashing in brutal fights, range attacks should support your strategy, not dominate it. He was going to rebalance shooting, toning it down, but making it irrelevant. Cleaning up line of sight and terrain rules, making them more intuitive and consistent. Let's take a look at what's changed. So, open question, guys. Was shooting too powerful in version 3?
No.
I don't think it was. I mean, occasionally you'd come across somebody with a skew army, with that just relied heavily on shooting. 9 war machines, Miguel. But it's one of those things. Everybody's I refer you to the honourable gentleman to the question I asked before about people will exploit things in the rules. They'll push to the limits, and having all that shooting in an army, it can take stuff off, but it's very, very swingy, especially with war machines. It's like my Free Dwarf army, all Brock Riders. People said to me, that's overpowered and that, yeah, but I'm rolling the dice and I can't roll 4s. Yeah. So,
Steve, did Lukash have a shooting salamander army or not for Clash?
It was a bit more combined arms this year, I think, wasn't it?
Okay, so there's no, in the top 10 at Clash, there was no shooting arms.
I mean, so my point of view on this is, at high level tournament play, it's not overpowered. It's not, because good players know how to deal with it and how to counter it, and generally have armies that are good at countering most archetypes. I think what Alessio is hinting at here is that for a newer player, facing a shooting army kind of sucks because you don't know how to deal with it. And it's not a feel good. And in all war games, it's not a feel good play to have your agency removed, which is what Kings of War shooting does. Because as this chat is going really, really fast, I'm sorry if I miss someone, but I saw somebody saying here, shooting in long range, minimum interaction, you roll dice and see what happens, right? So if your turn 1 have you lost 2 units because somebody's playing Blade Stalkers across the board, that sucks. It sucks pretty bad. So for a newer player, it disincentivizes wanting to play. And that's, I think, what he's trying to balance out. He's not trying to balance out good mixed arms play. He's trying to balance out somebody's taken 5 units of regiments of Blade Stalkers and I don't know how to deal with it. And now my toys are gone and I haven't even had to play the game, which is kind of 40k style gameplay, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but I don't think you need to fix shooting. I think you need to fix army composition. I think spam's the bigger problem there, and not the current abilities. So as somebody's put there, it's more about spamming. So the reality is like, I mean, somebody talked about Fireball earlier. Like, what a pants spell! Like, it just mathematically does bugger all, like all of the time. Like it's not good. Like Fireball 12 into assuming you've got no cover, no stealth, or nothing else. Like, what are you doing? Like 2 wounds into Death 5, 3 wounds into Death 4. Like, it's nothing, and that's quite an expensive mage, and that's range 12. Like, shooting generally wasn't that good. My concern if you weaken shooting is your strength and flying, because flying doesn't like shooting. I know infantry doesn't like shooting, but flying really doesn't like shooting because each wound's so expensive. So each piece of damage you do to an expensive unit of Dracons, say for instance, is very valuable, and it also means they have to engage early, which they don't really want to do. I think you have to be careful nerfing shooting, or you just buff flying. That's my own take on it.
Yeah, fair. That was that person was Jeremy Duval, by the way, from Canada. So hi, Jeremy. Nice to see you. He's making a point. He's talking about.
Okay, I didn't know that. So the real Melovius, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Milovius. Mitigated shooting was a lot about how you use terrain correct, and terrain. I mean, I've been lucky enough to play in lots of different places around the world. There's a lot of different styles of terrain placement, and I think the prevalence of shooting, where I've seen more shooting, is where I've seen less terrain.
Is that Malaysia? Because was it the Malaysian Open or Asian Open? Like, I saw there like 4 pieces of terrain on the board, and they weren't very big, like maybe 5, but they weren't very big, right?
Some people play with less terrain. Yeah, absolutely. But that's just different methods.
I'm not criticising it. It is what it is, wherever you play, but it didn't seem to be much on those boards.
I criticise them. They're not here. They've gone home now. It's fine. Hi, Paige. So I'm just kidding. Of course, it's all with a warm heart. He's so range to shooting. That's just to make it consistent across. So a lot of the name changes in the system here are really they've standardized across game systems, which I find really interesting. And I think that's more about trying to make it feel more like a Mantic game, right? Less like a Warhammer game and more like a Mantic. So doesn't matter if you're playing Warpath, if you're playing Halo, if you're playing Kings of War. It feels like a Mantic game because there's some commonalities. So I get that.
There is, but the names they're calling it are the ones I still call the phases from Warhammer Days now. So they changed it back to a shooting phase and back to a combat phase, which I was playing 10 years ago. So that makes me happy because, like Bob, I struggle with change.
I'm still looking for the magic phase, to be honest.
Same. Sometimes when I've got no shooting, only magic, I still call it the magic phase.
Paige is fighting back. Have you been saying? So, forgive us, Paige. We weren't there. We don't know what we're talking about. It looks like I'd love to go one day. I'm not going to lie to you. Anyway, back on topic, guys. So, line of sight, big change here. Line of sight does not exist for shooting. So, previously, they've already done away with it in version 3 for charging in terms of your measuring distance. No more leader point for line of sight. So no more wobbly lasers held over the table trying to find the center of the unit. It's from anywhere on the front of the unit space, making things quicker and more intuitive.
Huge buff for hordes.
Say again?
Huge buff for hordes, both for melee and shooting, if that's the case. Huge buff for hordes.
So shooting hordes actually have taken a step up here. And he's given a hint here. He hasn't said how he's done it or how they have done it, because it's not just him. They have improved how cover and terrain is handled. and the new rulebook includes plenty of diagrams to help players visualize these interactions clearly.
And to be perfectly honest, it still caused me problems unless they brought out Kings of War, the pop-up version.
I think, you know, when it comes to interaction, lines of sight, and cover, I don't think this is a fixable problem. I think this is you're just going to have to roll with it. Like I got to grips with 3rd edition cover probably about halfway through 3rd edition, which is just as well when you TO quite a lot of tournaments, right? You need to know what you're talking about. I think as long as it's simple enough for people to understand, we can argue about the nuances with individual diagrams as much as like, I don't care, right? Fred will be there with diagrams all over the Kings of War forums and it'll be good, right? We'll get there in the end. So I think...
So where this matters, though, potentially, is that you can't hide a shooting unit behind other units. So currently, I just have like a 2-inch gap between 2 units and my shooting unit behind, and I wouldn't get cover because the leader point could see half of their unit, right? The way this is, maybe, I'm speculating, but the only way I can think is that half of your unit needs to see half of their unit, or half of your unit needs to see some of their unit, enabled to be able to not take cover, right? Because if you're getting rid of the leader point, common sense says you're going to want a majority of your unit to probably see a majority of their unit in order to not take cover. So it does mean that potentially shooting can't hide behind the... Where I said it was a buff for the Hordes, that's kind of not a buff in a way, because you could currently have an Elven Archer Horde, for argument's sake, with 2 spear regiments in front of it, with a 2-inch gap between the spear regiments. You couldn't charge the Elf Archer Horde, but at the same point, like, it could shoot freely at whatever was in front of it without taking cover. Whereas if now that may or may not be possible.
You lost me at what I think is...
You what, sorry, Bob?
You lost me at what I think is...
no, I'm just... Like,
so, there's a couple of comments here. So Jeremy says, this one is interesting. I'm wondering if losing the ability to use terrain and unit placement to block line of sight to a leader point will remove tactical depth. It's a question. And Paige chips in, so easier to see for shooting, and if it's harder to get cover against shooting unit, that might buff shooting to offset the overall nerf they get.
Potentially.
So, I think one of the worst things in 3rd edition is the obscured versus concealed.
Yeah.
Because the names are just confusing. You know, if they called it behind and in cover, that would have been easier. But it was a nuance, right, which was confusing for everyone. So it could be you just need a cone originating from any part of your front.
Wow.
And it would be very annoying to measure that half, because I think you're right.
Exactly. It'd be really annoying, but I'm trying to work out how else they do it. A cone from any part of the front's nearly bust, because that means it'd be impossible to get cover from most things, right? So, but who knows?
And a nice timely note, it's Bob's birthday today. Happy birthday, Bob.
What? No, I'm 12. If you add the 2 numbers of my age together, they make 12.
Yeah.
I just had a hard paper round, as Heather said in my previous podcast.
Yeah,
it's cold up north.
not like cold up north. Tournament. All right, it's lots of happy birthdays in the chat. That's nice to see. Right, what are we talking about? Oh yes, Kings of War.
Thanks, mate.
I think this is a really, I just hope Alessio is smarter than we are. Right, I hope so too. The guys, I was talking to him at Clash of Kings because he was there, and I was like, "Am I right in thinking you're developing Kings of War version 4 and the new version of Bolt Action at the same time?" And he was like, "Yes!" Like this. And I was like, "Cool." Not much to take on then, buddy. So I'm sure it'll be fine.
No, well, I've played his Labyrinth game. He's not that smart.
I was going to buy that, and I stopped myself because no one else has watched Labyrinth.
I bought it for the Skeksis models. They're cool.
Is that David Bowie Labyrinth? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my stepmom used to watch that.
The King, the Goblin King. Right.
I was gutted when I found out he didn't actually learn to do the thing with the balls. He had a juggler stick his arm up under and do it for him.
I am disappointed.
But
Faye says,
hundreds of teenage girls used to go to the cinema I worked at just to see that because of the riding pants.
Oh,
Possibly,
that's
Paige.
enough for you. Line of sight no longer from leaderboard. Checking for cover from midpoint. Maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe.
Oh.
Side note: my nickname at school. Anyway, not true. Oh my god, I didn't mean to show that. I'm so sorry. I'm clicking. Stop. Go away. The chat's moving too fast. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Thank you for that, Jeremy. Right, we're a PG channel, not actually. Right, heights have been standardized according to this. So,
Where's the Titans gone?
great
Where's
question.
the Swarms?
Where's the Swarms and the Titans? So, for example, some units may be exception and have a different height. So, I guess Swarms are now infantry troops, or they'll be different. No, there would be large infantry troops, right? Same size, 40, 40, 40. But they'd be height 1 rather than height 3.
I mean, you're speculating they're the same size.
I am speculating. That's our job.
Yeah, that's what
But
we're here
let's
for.
hope we don't have to rebase our swarms. That
I would
be
really, well, I very much doubt that, and only for the reason that this month on the Mantic Vault they've just published Ratkin Rat Swarms, which is like so, and they're 40 mil. So swarms are definitely still there. So, what's the point in standardizing if you're going to have many exceptions? How is it better? Well, anyway, here is heights, blah 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 blah. So, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I think maybe the odd Titan. Yeah, I just don't know. Where are Titans? Right? Where are they? Where's height 6? Does height 6 not exist anymore? Was height 6 considered too powerful?
Well, it'd be more powerful now, right? Because then you could give a Titan cover easier.
Well, perhaps they just call them Monsters Plus.
Anyway, +1 to hit if the unit doesn't move. He likes the symmetry this creates with the existing -1 for cover. So they quite often cancel each other out. No maths needed. And it says to balance this, shooting values on units have been adjusted accordingly. So my understanding for that is if you're a 4+ shooting unit now, you're a 5+ shooting unit unless you're standing still. So steady aim is not.
Does that mean the 5+ are 6+? Because that's woeful.
Yep. So if you move and shoot, you're a 6+. If you issue a halt order, you're a 5+.
If they got cover, even if you aim, you're a 6+, and if they've got cover and you don't aim, it's a 7+.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I mean, you won't see them.
So, yeah. There you go. Wild speculation. Toning down the firepower. So this is the big change. We've kind of talked about it a little bit already. You cannot route a unit from shooting unless it's devastated. So the big question here is, so you can waver a unit through shooting. That's a thing. So now the shooting to waver units is quite tactical. Does this improve the situation as they hope, or does it mean we're just going to see lots more hordes of shooting in the hope that you can devastate units off from the off? I hope not. I'm sure it's been tested.
Makes chaff more powerful, like generally, right? Because if you've take Tidal Swarm, right? At the moment, obviously my favourite little thing, but at the moment, 5 or 6 damage, 7 damage, somewhere there, they're probably disappearing. Like if with the shooting, if you need to put in 13 damage to get them gone, and let's say, my old list, I used to have 7 Tidal Swarm units, then that's the best thing in the book, right? So then obviously if that is the case, then Tidal Swarm will be supremely powerful, because if you need to do that much damage to kill each one without having to engage it, I mean, you better have some low value stuff to engage it, because otherwise we're trading up big time.
I think the intention is to make it more of a melee game rather than a shoot off.
It'll do that.
I think
it's just in like I say, it's within a bubble. But if you just look at that and Tidal Swarm stayed how they are now, and army composition stayed it was now, if you could have 7 or 8 swarms of Tidal Swarm, you'd get to pick all the combats for next to no points, and it virtually never gets shut off.
But
the only issue with Tidal Swarm now is it gets shut off.
Because we know army composition has changed to a battalion where you've got core units and support units, right? So small swarms are going to be support units. They're going to see a core of infantry.
The other thing that was interesting with that, back a minute ago, you showed large infantry heights, and obviously if swarms are now casting as, because currently a horde of swarm would now become a regiment of swarm, I'm guessing, right? And what we now know as a regiment of swarm become a troop of swarm, I'm guessing, right? And so that means potentially that hordes of swarm now, which will then be regiments of swarm, will actually have like unit strength 2 or unit strength 3, which would be pretty cool. Because I think one of the only reasons you don't see some of the bigger units of swarm is because of the unit strength.
That's fair. I know.
So
I looked at
Draconlings is solid, but because of the unit strength 1, you don't take them.
I looked at Arakinon with loads of Vermintide, and Vermintide, while they were fun, they just didn't do what they needed to do to make it worth doing, right? So maybe exactly.
Sorry,
I found a way to add the comments directly to the stream. By the way, I'm very excited. You can see them on
I've just noticed. That's why I haven't said anything. I've been mesmerised by watching them.
As they come in, we can see them. So apologies for only discovering that button just now.
Yeah,
but
did you say that the naughty goblin was Fraser Scott?
Yeah, hi Fraser.
Yeah, because you just said he's David Bowie's stunt double in The Labyrinth. I think he's more likely to have been the little dude that rode the dog.
Oh, poor Frey. Frey's off sick at the minute because he's got a wonky leg. He's going to talk about the pirate. What's Steve Evans's channel?
The Lazy Pirate.
Frey's going to be the real pirate with a wooden leg. It's all going to be good. So newbie dice. So Paige says it's like starting a third ed where shooting was nerfed against acceptable war engines, and then Eric Trowbridge won mastered with Orklings and Grey Tax hordes.
Guys, I'm just going to get it to say goodnight to my kids if that's all right.
Yeah, all right, buddy. No worries. We'll take you off the screen. Here we go. I've removed Ian. Oh. There you go. Fraser fell off an hour last. So
a likely story.
We've lost the only one of us that knows how to play Kings of War, Bob. This is a problem.
We're going to just make shit up.
Yeah. Let's rely on the chat to keep us going. So, shooting modifier talks about toning down the firepower. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, we talked about that. They want decisive moments to happen in hand-to-hand combat, not at the end of a crossbow bolt, which is I get because shooting you off sucks, but you don't want to depower it to the point where it's pointless because actually a grind match is fun every now and then, but not every game. And I think the best high-level play happens with mixed arms, so hopefully that's not being lost. Magical missiles, so ranged spells that interact, more cleanly with cover. Most spells hit on a 4+. Magic missiles hit on a 5+ if the target is covered. So this is removing this kind of labyrinthine magic table with different effects for different spells. This one hits in cover, this one doesn't hit in cover, makes it much more clearer. You're either a spell that doesn't care about cover or you do care about cover because you're a magical missile. So Fireball is now a magical missile. It's Blast D3, so its value has been reduced. And it has shattering, which it currently has anyway.
So I should imagine you'll see the number of fireballs going down instead of people having Fireball 12 and Fireball 8. It'll go down to compensate for the Blast D3 somewhat.
Blast D3 is pretty strong, right? If you roll lots of 3s, that's not bad. It's a question. So we don't know. Is stealthy still a rule, Paige? No one's even mentioned.
Seen that. We haven't seen anything about that yet.
How does stealthy affect cover? What is stealthy? Nobody knows. Matt says he really likes this change. Nice idea, but I give it 6 months before we have exceptions again. Fair comment.
Matt G?
Is this Matt G? I don't know. It's a Matt. It's a Matt. Hi, Matt, whoever you are. Jez Hunt bought 3rd edition 2 years ago, still hasn't painted an army up. I mean, to be honest, painting armies is optional with Kings of War. I've been playing on blank bases with one goblin on recently, so I don't think it's all right. I agree with this comment. every spell having its own special rules for cover was silly. It wasn't necessarily it wasn't wildly out, but having to check a spell table constantly was irritating. Standardizing it makes it better, I think.
Oh, it's Matt H. It's his predecessor.
Is that the inferior or the superior Matt? It's hard to say. I'm not sure. Nice to see you, Matt. What will my might? I mean, this is nearly English, Ian. Way will 9 Night Stalkers get instead of stealthy? Wow.
He does live in Cumbria. You have to make allowances for that.
Great question here. Or not the question. I stop moving so fast. Can spells route a unit?
Well, it's shooting, isn't it? It's in the shooting phase.
Yeah.
So I would assume it follows the same rules.
Oh, Ian's
unless
back.
it specifically says, like Mind Fog, you take a nerve check, and if the unit fails the nerve check, it's routed. But we haven't seen anything to support that, so that's wild speculation.
So if devastated, yeah, maybe. Welcome back. And a good point from Luke. No reason they couldn't include a rule that allows a shooting attack to route. Yeah, fair. All right, let's keep going. The arcane library's been made, so anyone can now access the arcane. I think anyone couldn't they? Or maybe they could. There is a special unit only. Who knows?
They could, but I think only certain armies only had certain options to them, rather than it being common.
So this is an interesting comment I kind of wanted to draw out. As new expansion books are released, armies will also gain access to faction-specific spells, adding flavor and tactical variety without overwhelming the core system. So we know that for the first release, there will be 4 armies with these kind of deeper rules. So all the armies will be present with core rules that can be used with a good tactical competitive army. 4 of them in the first set will get a special treatment, new models, fill out the range. Salamanders will be fully digital. That's what Ronnie told us. And then each 6 months, they're claiming, there will be another 4 armies in a book who will get these army-specific rules, army-specific tactics, faction-specific spells. I think that's good in adding flavor. I really hope we don't enter into a world of scope creep, where each faction that gets released becomes the new hot, the 40k model.
Elliot adds an interesting point there. He says unique units couldn't access the library, which is right. I'm hoping they don't make these faction-specific spells just on unique units. Because I kind of, in any system that I've ever played, I kind of hate special characters being auto-includes. So, like, when you play that army, you kind of feel, I don't know, you've got to play, the big one people talked about this was Morgoth, right? If you play Undead, you've got to play Morgoth, which is kind of pony. But he was close to, right? He was close to.
Jarvis is better.
But he was close to auto-include, right, Morgoth? If you're thinking about it, like from a competitive standpoint, he wasn't auto-include, but he was close to. And so I wouldn't like it if I could only have my new toy if I took the other toy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So Paige says, is it 4 armies? No, it's 8 armies updated per year. So it's 6 monthly books with 4 armies. Which is 3. So he says if it's 4 armies, it's 7 years to update 28 armies. So actually, it's 3.5 years, which is roughly how long each edition takes. So they ain't stupid. So
if you draw the short straw if you last, you only get to play your updated army for 6 months.
Yeah,
that's Ratkin slaves, whatever. But there's subgenres of armies, right? So just thought it was interesting to talk about. In conclusion, the range phase is now more balanced, more intuitive, and more fun. Thumbs up. Anyway, that's the advertising bit. Right. Let us skip on to... Well, that's weird, because the range phase opens in the same window, but the other phase is... Eddie, you need to sort your web... it's opening in different windows. So articles 3 and 4 open in the same window. Anyway, it's not important. Okay, let's share screen. 4, the combat phase. Elliot just said, I hope this doesn't come back to bite me. Let's put it on screen immediately. Units are now costed using a formula with the idea being its balance baked in at the start, even for new armies.
That sounds like it should have the adjoinder keep away from children at the end of it, like they do for the aerial adverts, doesn't it?
I don't know whether this is related or not, but you know Mark Cunningham.
I've met Mark Cunningham.
Mark Cunningham, the legend that is from Southeast. He's run a tournament called Shroud of the Reaper, and he runs it several times a year. And I know he's been rules committee and stuff like that, or whatever it is on the committee groups anyway of some form. And he's got a formula for making a monster for this year's Christmas event. I'm wondering whether that's the same formula.
Oh, I hope not.
Are you going to that one, Bob? Are you coming all the way down there just to make your own snowman?
Saying this is Mark Cunningham, the legend, who once came on a live cast with myself and broke a whiskey glass under his foot, poured whiskey all over his laptop, nearly blew his bedroom up. Yeah.
And also burned down his house. Yeah, much love out to Mark Cunningham. He's having a tough time. And also, Grant Alexander, of course, is the co-CEO of Shadow of the Reaper, and he gets very annoyed. People always forget him. So much love to you, Grant. Granty baby.
He always tries to win his own tournament.
Come on. Anyway, focus. We're here for some incredibly focused, incisive rules discussion. Not a discussion of Mark Cunningham's.
Well, you should have asked proper people then, rather than me and Ian.
To be fair, you guys volunteered.
It's true.
You hit me up and went, I'll come.
That's just because I need something to do on a Friday while I've got a month off the beer.
All right, focus. So Ronnie confirmed on a podcast, armies will be consolidated to 20. So I think talking on that, so he did talk a little bit about this at Clash of Kings, and if you watch the Clash of Kings live stream on day 2, he comes on and talks about it a little bit more. Every army that is currently playable will be playable. Some of them will be unlockable by taking a hero. So you might take, let's say, Golek Skinflayer in your Abyssal Dwarf army to unlock Ratkin units, let's say, to Ratkin slaves. So that's kind of what I understand the approach is. I'm just scanning down the comments here. Okay. Jan's just slamming you in the comments there, Bob. Yeah, well, sorry, it's fine. So the combat phase. Getting the feel of hand-to-hand combat just right has been one of the most challenging and rewarding parts of designing this edition. Address dissatisfaction with the withdraw method. That's a really interesting choice of spat with excitement. An interesting choice of words. The withdraw. Why did he call it the withdrawal method, Bob? No. I
was thinking it's better than the Brazilian method.
No. I was going to say he's Roman Catholic, isn't he? Being Italian.
Mute you. Moving on. What a choice of words. And the dreaded corkscrew charge. Was the corkscrew charge dreaded?
I don't know. Once it happened once or twice, it was like not that hard to stop. To be honest,
they withdrew right before the corkscrew. Anyway, moving on.
It was the corkscrew charge was a distinct advantage for square bases. That did that distinct advantage for square bases really need to be there. Correct.
So the current two-time US Master says that the corkscrew card was definitely not dreaded. Adam Ballard, well known for carrying multiple 40mm heroes in his armies, all with nimble and height 3. I'm just saying.
So you've used all the rules at the same time. Nice.
Yeah, all the rules. Good night, Heather. Thanks for joining us. So, gosh, we're going for an hour and 20. Come on, let's focus. He wants to make the combat phase more intuitive, cinematic, and tactically rich. From Meadow, renamed it, who cares? So reforming in combat. So units that are engaged on only one facing can now use the reform order to turn and face. I think what was really interesting about this, because there's nothing particularly unusual about turning to face, it simply replaces countercharge. The Reform podcast, as we call it now, It's more that this unit A, which has been charged, flanked by 2 units who have done garbage attacks on them, apparently, have, when they've reformed, they've not chosen one of them to attack. They have reformed equidistant to both of them. Right?
Must have been one of Ian Skayman's flank charges.
There's the wraparound we talked about again. And that's because in the sticky combat, so sticky combat, they remain engaged unless they try to withdraw. You can now split your attacks against the multiple units you are engaged with.
Ooh.
So, quick one here. Sticky combats, big buff for, big downgrade for double one. So if you roll double one and you've done 20 damage on their dragon now won't be able to just go and charge whatever it wants on the battlefield, right? Because it will have to leave that combat. So kind of it's a bit of it's good for me because I hated that where you could absolutely smash a unit double one that could go off and charge whatever it wanted to. At least now it kind of has to countercharge you. It can't do anything else.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really interesting. You don't choose one of them. You can split your attacks. You can lock down. So a big horde previously had to choose one of the things it was against to lock down, right? But actually, you can lock down everything. I'm going to use 10 attacks there, 10 attacks there, and 5 attacks there, right? And you're all in combat, which makes sense, doesn't it? Really, because you've got 40 blokes in a 40 orcs, let's say, hacking at something. They're not all going to go, right, lads, let's hack at this one thing. Don't worry about the dragon. Rah! So I get, tactically speaking, it's actually quite an interesting way to approach. So everything I'm seeing so far, I feel like big infantry blocks have a lot more of a varied role on the battlefield than they did previously.
Here's an interesting one, Steve. Does that only work when you're effectively countercharging, so only when things you're already stuck in would do it? Or are you able to charge 2 units at once and split the attacks?
It simply says units can now divide their attacks between any enemy units they are engaged with.
Correct. So does that mean you have to be engaged at the start of the turn, or does that mean you can charge 2 units of chaff at the same time?
You are engaged when you charge, are you not?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my understanding.
But do you have to always charge war against 1 unit, or can you show charge war against 2 units?
Oh.
That's my point. So if they got 2 pieces of chaff in front of you and you're a big horde, can you charge both of them and they align to you?
Can you charge 2 units at the same time?
Or I'm not saying you can. I'm just saying, is that the case? Obviously, if they both charge you, you attack both back and split your attacks. But
wow.
On the other hand, can you charge 2 at once? As long as
I'm like, right, I'm charging both of the units with my horde.
Oh, yeah.
Which you could, I mean, that's a thing that you would do, right? On a battlefield, you would charge 2 units.
Yeah, if maybe.
I need my wild speculation banner. I've only got 1 banner. I'm going to use it as much as possible. Wild speculation. Okay, that's interesting. You allocate attacks in combination with special rules and artifacts before rolling any dice, giving you full control over how your unit fights. Snake Eyes remains unchanged. I think that's fine. I think that's great. I love double ones, even when they happen to me. Like they happened to me 3 times last night against Barry. It was slightly irritating.
That's
Let me tell you,
numbers that
rookie. So I had all the loot tokens on a zombie troll unit that was running away. The only unit that could kill it had 14 wounds on it. It was a 15-17 unit. I charged it with the Revenant King, did 2 wounds, double one it, and of course he rear charged my bloody unit. Anyway, it's not important. Right. Anyway,
we are do that now, Steve, because he'd fail his test when he tried to leave combat because he's sticky.
That's right. Exactly. No more. Yeah. Exactly. That's true. He couldn't withdraw because I could just chop him in the back. Ah, man, rules are good. The We Are Doomed result. We Are Doomed is 6/6, right?
Yeah.
6/6 in combat causes additional damage instead of wavering the unit. So this is confirmation there is no wavering in combat. You're either dead or you're fighting. However, if you roll a 6/6, it does additional damage. It doesn't say how much. I'm assuming it's a dice roll.
Do they get inspiring against that or not?
Well, there's no nerve test against it, right? Because you rolled the nerve test. It's a 6/6. I've rolled a 6/6. Now you get extra. Now you get some extra damage. I don't.
Remember, this is just a blog. It might read slightly different or be a bit clearer in the actual rule set.
Yeah,
it does sound a bit confusing.
Hmm.
Don't know. Anyway, that makes the outcome more impactful and better reflects the chaos of a unit breaking under pressure. So assume, if you've rolled a 12 and let's say you've done 1 point of damage against a horde and you roll a double 6, you just do a D3, D6, whatever extra wounds to reflect that how the impact of your incredible bravado.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. The victory options. Once a unit has defeated all its opponents, you can. Okay, so reforms is still the same. Mechanics remain familiar, but now extend. Okay, the same. In conclusion, the changes to the combat phase are all about giving players more tactical control, making every fight feel meaningful. It spices up the combat phase like never before.
All right.
Well, that's good to know. Well, that's all of the 4 blogs that have been released so far. So we've got Advanced Games is coming on Monday, and whatever that means. Then Matt's giving us 2 stories, Rage and Out of Control. It's all about Ronnie's management style. And then Building Armies is a key one, about how the armies are constructed.
I mean, that's the one that I really, really want to see.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I think that's kind of
what I read so far, unless that tells me different, which I'm assuming Hordes unlock more things as well, so they'll become even better. This edition just says Hordes, 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 right? Because Hordes can only be charged twice in the front, which these be charged a lot more. And Hordes are probably a lot more maneuverable. And Hordes can charge 2 things back. Maybe they can even just charge 2 things, who knows? And everything's just saying Hordes have had a huge buff. The line of sight for Hordes is better, certainly for ranged Hordes. It just sounds like Hordes have had a huge buff. That's how it reads to me.
Go big or go home.
It says they should give us the fiction later and the army building sooner. I love the fluff, my friend.
Horde Hammer, says Daniel Haslam.
Oh, I love that Horde Hammer. Hordes. Yeah. So then after Building On, we've got another story called The Traveller by Dan. And then another mysterious a video. It looks like it's going to feature more outstanding acting.
Has it got Benedict Cucumber Patch in again?
Isn't that the photographer guy on the left? I'm fairly certain that's the photographer.
They've just roped him in, haven't they? Just come and sit in here and look interesting.
And we've got looking back and forward. I don't know what that means at all. Maybe that's lore. I don't know.
I would say so.
And then coordinating a new edition. So
I thought that was the Green Cross Code, or is that look left, look right?
Left and right. So yeah, that is the totality of what we have. And just keep checking this big picture. There's nothing new and exciting in this picture, is there?
No, there's the double dildo dragon, the Kraken, the Hellfane. Everything else is just normal skiffs and stuff.
Shame. Anyway, so final thoughts. Here we go. If they removed Chance Charge and Dash 28, are they targeting podcasts? Is that the plan? They just don't want community anymore.
Oh dear. Should I be worried?
Yeah, what's going to come next? Who knows?
Yeah.
As long as there's still death by dragons, I'm in.
Confirmation, no more dragons.
No confirmation, no more dragons. Oh no, we're all going to die. No dragons in 4th edition. Well, that is sad.
Most of that sounds really positive, though, right? Like, were you down on any of that? Because I wasn't.
Be honest. I mean, I'm a positive person in general, right? I'm just generally like, I like the game as long as it's playable, I'll play it. Yeah. But I kind of tune to the community reaction because actually, if I've not got anyone to play with, then that's a problem. I think of the rules changes, teasers we've seen for this, the community reaction has been massively more positive than any rules changes we've seen previously.
I mean, I'm probably the polar opposite of Steve because I'm quite a miserable, bitter person. Fair. But even I've got to admit, I think they've done assuming everything is as we think it is, I think they've done a really stand-up job. I mean, they did it right from the beginning. The Rules Council are fantastic. They're great guys. They've done a lot of hard work, but it needed somebody to come in and just pull the bucket up and get rid of all the layer upon layer of words that have infiltrated into the rule book. And I think Alessio's done a good reset, and it's going to provide a good basis for the game to move on over the next 15 years, hopefully. That's probably the most positive you'll ever hear me being.
Oh, no, yeah. Genuinely. What was this one?
There you go. Carry on.
So genuinely, I'm quite excited for it because the rule set's going to be very, very different, which means the tactics will be very, very different, which means everything will feel fresh and new again. And just on that alone, like, I'm happy. It's a couple of things I'm on the fence with, but I don't know enough context around them to be any further. Most of those are just positive changes to me.
Yeah, to me, it feels that of all the rules up there, I mean, I started in second edition, right? Every rules change in second edition up to now has felt like incremental changes, slight changes to the rules, updates, more of a 3.5, right? Each time it's This to me feels like a real refresh of the rules. It feels like we're playing quite a different game. Same kind of core feeling, still ranks and flanks, but there's a lot bigger changes coming to it, and I think that's a good thing because I think we had got a little bit jaded with it. For a casual player, it was a little bit impenetrable. For a competitive player, there was a real cliff edge of skill, whereby I could point to anyone in the top 100 of the Kings of War players in the UK, and I could say who I could beat and not beat because we just know, right? So these people, I've got a good chance against. It's fair. I can't beat any of these guys, and I could probably smash any of these guys, right? There's like a cliff edge of skill because the game's got to a point. I think this resets it. I think genuinely we've got to a point where it needed a fresh set of eyes. Bringing Alessio back can only be a good thing. The guy, for what I understand, he's come in with a hand grenade, thrown it in. The rules have gone bam, and then everyone's kind of like shuffled the pieces around to make it really good. And I think the people they've got working on it, for what it's worth, have been pretty good people that I trust in terms of their skill and ability. So
you're not melting your bubble,
really
Steve.
Good. Sorry, Ian, go on.
Not yet. No, I'm still painting version 3 models because I'm an absolute idiot. Sorry, Bob. What were you saying?
I mean, it's really good that they got Alessio back because he wrote the original rules on the back of a beer mat or something, didn't he? So it's really it needed that refreshed look at it. And if it hadn't have happened eventually, if they'd have just decided, I mean, over the past year we've had the command dice thing and all that. I mean, if they'd have gone down that route, then you and I would probably be playing version 3 with beer and hookers as our own different sort of Kings of War, Clash would be a totally different prospect, I think. But just a quick one. What do you think? Do you think this will affect the Clash numbers for next year, up or down?
Up.
Do you think up? So
yeah, I've been through a lot of different systems and a lot of different edition changes, and this is by far the most positive kind of reaction I've seen to anything. And I think a lot of people were sitting out towards the back end of this edition in terms of UK players, and there was actually a lot more. There was a bigger international contingent this year at Clash. And so that kind of made the numbers up. I think you'll get another 30, 40, 50 UK players next year.
So we've planned, at the moment, we can go up to 250, right? I've just had another TO, shout out Matt Hobday, has said that he's got another 15 tables he could bring. So, and we've got the room.
Yeah, the card tables, though, aren't they? Because he's a gambler.
Look, I'm perfectly expected and comfortable if the numbers shrink for Clash. So that's fine. We can manage that. We have the room to grow. I'd be excited if it did grow. I don't want it to grow too much because it's already quite a big thing. So if it gets any bigger, it becomes unmanageable. But I'd be psyched if it continues to grow. Then I'm just more and more happy, right? Because this is my only hobby. I don't have anything else to do. So that would be really exciting. But I think I would expect it to at least maintain, maybe shrink slightly. If it grows, then that's just a really good indication that they've hit the mark, right? Just some comments here on the edition change because there's been a few. So Paige says if fourth edition was just a polished third and third was a polished second, it might be boring. People wouldn't come back. Justin says it feels like the Warhammer 7th to 8th edition change.
No, it doesn't.
Is that not a bad thing?
8th was pretty grim.
Oh, I have to stir more division and no, this is gonna suck. Everything's gonna be bad. Goblins are the best. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. It sounds competently written, unlike some games. Ooh. Where's my controversial? Controversial. I've got one.
Hey.
John Fawkes' hashtag there. Paige is petitioning for the furthest travel award for Future Clash UK's. Yeah,
well, you're screwed because I've decided to go on a round the world yacht race and then play Clash.
Okay. Everyone's just talking about Clash, which is great. Thank you for talking about Clash. We love Clash.
Yeah, apparently somebody mentioned me in a comment there. I just saw it.
That was Jan.
Kings of War is different on Bob's table.
Oh, because there's hookers involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an excellent tournament. Let's just talk about Clash being great. Yeah, it is.
It's fantastic.
Just a very quick one. I don't know if we can hit on it. Well, Abe's got any. I know you did a video on it, Steve. But the new factions. So people are saying it's 20 factions. Is it now?
Well, this is so somebody has said that Ronnie has mentioned there are 20 core factions in the new game.
So actually, that's 19 of what's there currently, right? Because we've got a new faction coming in.
Yeah, so that sounds fair. Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
So
Chinese pirates.
And what is it now? Is it 30? Is it 28 or 32 factions now?
28 factions.
That's nine current factions are going to be becoming, if you like, theme factions rather than factions, right? They're going to become. So Ratkin Slaves will be one, no doubt. You've hit the nail on the head, right? And Brotherhood.
Sylvankin, another one.
Sylvankin. But it's interesting to see, be interesting in the comments what people actually think the other ones are.
So what do people think of the sub-theme factions? I want to open my Herd
of the Green Lady.
Green Lady, yep.
Bromark.
What about Kings of Men being a sub of Basileia, or will Kings of Men be? Do you think Kings of Men still be a faction?
I don't think. I think Kingdoms of Men is distinct from the Wing Nazis. To be honest, it's just because it's all the successor kingdoms apart from Basileia.
I pray they keep Kingdoms of Men because you can do what you want with it. Like modelling wise, I think it's brilliant. You want to do a Zulu army, you do a Zulu army. You want to do a samurai army, do that. You can. I hope they keep Kingdoms of Men.
So let's go down this list. So we've got, say, Free Dwarfs will be one, a sub faction.
Yeah. That's 6.
League of Rordia will be a sub faction. And so I'm starting
2
again.
more to go.
Rack and Savior talks about Orcs.
Maybe, right? Because you've got the Riftforge Orcs, and they're not going to make Riftforge a theme faction, are they? They're going to make normal Orcs the theme faction, possibly.
And what was the last one? I just had it there in my head. Varangur.
Yeah. Well, but that doesn't really make much sense. What are Varangur going to be a theme faction of? Because they can't be a theme faction of Northern Alliance, really.
Yeah, they can.
They're going to get the new. According to Ronnie, he's going to make Varangur.
He did say that. He did say he's going to. He confirmed.
He said, "Don't build a Varangur army out of Northern Alliance stuff," because he's doing Varangur.
Yeah, I don't see, because one's evil and one's good. I don't see one being a theme force of the other particularly.
Yeah. So I think Green Lady and Herd being a sub faction of Nature, maybe.
Well, a lot of people were wildly speculating at Clash that Nature was one of the ones to go.
But why?
Because they've got a champions box for Nature. I mean, an ambush box for Nature.
They've got nearly a full range of figures for Nature.
Yeah, but they all fit into something else, don't they?
Yeah. But I mean,
no,
it's one of
it's a
those,
good point. So nature will stay and those be a thing. I don't know. I was just trying to work out who the last couple were. I think we've all got the favourites. Orcs was an interesting throw in. Whoever said that?
Me. So that's only because orcs have been for the chop for a while, right? The whole story of Riftforge orcs is they're rampaging off the ground across the world, wiping out orcs, and all orcs want to be Riftforge now, allegedly.
So here's an interesting one. Could Twilight become a theme of Night Stalkers? Because technically in the fluff, right, Twilight-kin were originally Sylvan-kin, right? And they were basically...
No, that's not correct at all. That is not correct at all.
Well, that's how I read it. So
No.
Educate
me. No. So Twilight-kin were the original elves, right?
Okay.
Who were on the mouth of Leith. And they were the elves who longed for the old times. So the Twilight King's whole mission is to bring back the way it used to be when elves were dominant in society, right?
Before the Celestians.
Before the Celestians. So they're there to wipe out the kind of influences and there is a particular one of the gods of the Rift is underneath the mouth of Leith, imprisoned inside a giant crystal. So the queen of the Twilight Kin has communed with this, and so has Mikhail, communed with this god of the Rift. To gain more hidden knowledge. So the Twilight Kin are secretly going around all the kingdoms, stealing all the ancient knowledge in order to gain the power to bring back the way it used to be. So they're not the Sylvan Kin at all. They are...
the history I thought was a bit different to that, but I haven't read the Twilight Kin book in fairness. So
to be honest, I read Clash 24 because I was looking for clues for the new faction. The lore in there is really well written. I'd say compared to the older Mantic books, I was really pleasantly surprised. It was really well written, the lore in the Clash 24 book. Right, guys, we've hit an hour and 40. That's kind of a very long live stream. People have been really patient with us. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. Maybe we'll do it again when the rest of the nuggets have come out here. So after the 2nd of October, we Bob, you and we're going to the playtest, aren't we, at Mantic on the 5th? Are you coming to that, Ian?
I wasn't, but now I know it's on.
Well, send a message, send an email to Matt Gilbert.
Yeah.
Right, saying I'd love to come and play test. I'll bring a Mantic army, blah 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 blah, and tell you what the army is. Maybe he'll let you in. Right. We're going to play it on the 5th at Mantic. I know I'm going on Bob's podcast immediately after that to talk about it. Bob's going to do some interviews there. But it might be great to kind of maybe do this before that play test. So let's maybe on the 3rd or 4th. What do you reckon?
Yes, sound.
Yeah, before I have to change the name of my podcast.
Exactly. Before they kill all the dragons and I can't be a Deathbird Dragon anymore. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much for those who stayed up or woke up or came to join us. We really appreciate it. I hope we haven't offended anyone. Thank you to Bob. Thank you to Ian for your time. And that's it for now. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.